All right, we are going live. Welcome to another edition of Sunday Night Klooby Snacks. I am Jeff Klubeck, and I'm not really flying solo. My co-author and my co-pilot, Abby, is not with us tonight. She's pre-engaged or preoccupied with a school-related activity. It's the banquet for her journalism crew, Nexus. But I am joined, let me add him to the stage, by Charlie, the global connector, all the way from from South Africa, as a matter of fact. How are you, Charlie? I can't hear you.
I'm welcome, Jeff. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, there you are. I'm good. I miss Abby as always. So it's probably going to be a brief session tonight. I've been texting her and she's just caught up with her. She's 4 years of journalism. And tonight's the banquet and it's her senior year. And so there's a lot of activities like this that, she's graduating in a couple of days. And so it's an exciting time. So let's get into it. I'm going to go ahead and carry the load tonight and do all of the book reading and all of the Klooby Snack citing. And I'm actually going to read Abigail's part, which is going to be tough for me. I'm not going to do it the justice, of course, that she would, but I'm just going to be thorough and create the recording. And I think next week when Abby's back, we can elaborate on both snacks. We can go back a little bit and talk about tonight's snack and give her the opportunity to express what she wants to. But let me go ahead and just get into it. Let me let everybody know that if you want to join the conversation live, the link is the same kind of every week. You just change the number of the week. So this is the 23rd week of the year, but it's tinyurl.com/KloobySnack and then whatever week we're in. So this is week 23, but week 24, even if you typed in week 7, that would still get you to the same place because it's the same URL to get into the live stream every week. And so by now everybody knows that Klooby Snacks, there's 52 of them. There's a year's worth made for social media, so we could do this every single week of the year. And the 52 are broken down into 4 baker's dozens, right, to keep with the baking and the cooking theme, passing down the family recipe to Abigail before she goes off to college later on this year. And 4 baker's dozens. So the first baker's dozens, the first 13 snacks were all in the loving flavored category, but now we're into the second baker's dozen, which is ego flavored. And so what I'd like to do is a quick review of those, and I'll leave this URL up. I'm going to screen share and go to the book. I like sharing the book. We're proud of how it came out and how it's designed internally. And if you should be able to see my screen now, you can see ego flavor. This is the beginning of this section. There's a summary of all of the snacks that are in this baker's dozen up here on the cover page. Of course, I wrote a little intro to the section, and then we went with snack by snack. So number 14 was surrender is not the same thing as defeat. And then Abigail wrote a response, of course. Then number 15, ego defense is an emotional fight or flight response. And then number 16 was our judgments are an aggressive form of ego defense. Then 17, this one's kind of fun because the first part of this is something that you've probably heard before, but what we added to the second part of this really makes it a Klooby Snack. We want it to be easy and fun to look within, but here we go. You cannot laugh at others if you cannot laugh at yourself. And if you love laughing at others, it's probably because you don't love yourself. Charlie, I'm getting some background noise here. I'm going to see if I can mute you for a second because I'm getting some feedback through until I'm done with the reading of the snacks. And then, all right. So coming back to this, and can you see my screen sharing? I cannot try capturing a different. That's interesting. It says that I wasn't. It says that I wasn't screen sharing. But how about now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. So, I thought my screen was sharing that whole time. How interesting. All right. Number 18, we are usually guilty of the accusations we project onto others. I didn't make this stuff up about projecting and projection, right? But these are a lot of universal truths, these Klooby Snacks. It's just the wordsmithing and the phraseology lets us package these universal truths in what we're hoping is more digestible ways, or ways that expand or deepen or broaden our thoughts on these universal truths. Okay, number 19. Asking questions does not reveal our intelligence nearly as much as failing to ask will, right? So it's kind of a take on the old adage, there's no such thing as a stupid question, or the only stupid question is the one that goes unasked, if you will, right? But I don't like using the word stupid with questions. We want to do everything we can to use positive language around the art and the skill and the talent and the resource of being able to ask questions and always see the world through a curious lens. All right. moving on. I love these pictures that we've thrown in of Abigail and I and the times that we've gotten to hang out. This was a day that we spent together at San Diego State University when she was a sophomore, by the way, and I was in my first year back on campus teaching class. Fond memories we were able to put into the book. So number 20 is the curse of knowledge is when we become so familiar with what we know that we forgot what it's like not to know. I loved how Abigail brought brand new perspectives to this Klooby Snack in her write-up of it. I want to make sure I didn't skip one real quick. Hang on, let me double check. Yeah, no, I didn't. Okay, so yeah, when I wrote this snack, I was talking about encoding. And when we are suffering from the curse of knowledge, we're going to use jargon, or we're going to use phrases and terms, or we're going to skip the basics, if you will, because we're so familiar with what we know that we forget what it's like not to know. We need to remember what it's like not to know and speak into that listening, right? On and on. But what Abigail talked about was like the desire to know. And when we don't know, when we want to learn more, and we're working harder because we're defending our egos because something's new, and then we get complacent when it gets comfortable or when we take it for granted. And so she was talking about performance and desire, in addition to just like being cursed by jargon and creating communication distances between people. She was looking really within on desire and performance, right? It was really special to see her perspectives on Klooby Snack number 20. And then that took us to 2 weeks ago, number 21, people who lack self-confidence always feel intimidated by a true leader. Truth be told, this is one of these Klooby Snacks that when I read it now, I was like, how did that ever get through the editing department, right? Because if Abigail and I agreed, if we were to rewrite this Klooby Snack today, we definitely wouldn't have the word always in here, and we might rewrite the whole thing. Like the more we thought about it, when upon second reflection, this is just one of those snacks that maybe we thought when we were writing it, oh, we'll edit that at the end, or we got time to edit that, or we'll come back to that one, but we got other things to work on right now. But somehow I felt that this snack fell through our best editing. And if we ever redo a second version of this particular volume, this Klooby Snack will be edited. And that's all I have to say about that for tonight. And then last week, this is a fun one. This is like one of my favorite Klooby Snacks. And this is like teasing imposter syndrome, or speaking truth to power, or not giving imposter syndrome any power, or putting a question mark instead of an exclamation point by imposter syndrome, right? And it goes a little something like this: the only person worried if they're good enough for the next level is the one who knows they're going. Now, it's a little logical, right? Like if I wasn't going to the next level, why would I ever worry if I was good enough, right? I wouldn't, right? The only reason I worry at all is because I must be knocking on that door. It must be imminent. It must be upon us. It must be around the corner. So now I'm worried, right? Because I know I'm going. So why don't I invest a little bit more in the knowledge and the truth that I'm definitely going? Right. And it's the marketplace that'll tell us. Well, if we're the ones that have to decide if we're good enough, most of us will never decide, right? It's like there's bravery, there's courage, there's fearlessness, and so forth. But sometimes we just have to show up and let the marketplace decide, let our peers decide. We have to put the product, put ourselves out there and see what the market has to say, and then respond from there. Find out if we're not good enough. There's only one way to know, is taking that leap and so forth, right? So we want to always recognize the fact that we are definitely going, and give more love to that than the worried part, because I didn't make this up, but worry is a waste of our imagination. If we're going to make up what could go wrong, if we're going to make things up, why don't we make up what could go right? Right. So that's where we're at there, and that's the summary, and that leads us to tonight's Klooby Snack. Love this picture here. I loved Abigail talking about this, and her great friend Claire that she performed with all of these years. And Abigail's comments last year was like, hey, Abigail loved theater. She loved doing theater, but she wasn't putting in the amount of effort with a belief that she's going to the next level, that she's going to do theater in college. She knows she's going to do journalism and pre-law in college. But she talked so admirably about her friend Claire, who put in all of the effort that Abigail did, in like 2, 3, 4 times more. Like really, this is, theater is Claire's thing. And Abigail, it was wonderful to speak, to see Abigail speak in such admiration of someone else, right? It's not hard to get Abigail to talk about herself and the things that she's excited about and things that she's proud of. And I wouldn't have it any other way, but it's extra special on top of that to see her talk with such admiration about somebody else that's putting in the work, putting in the effort, and knocking on the door of new and next levels in that path in theater. So having said all of that, let me catch my breath for a second and say, hey, Charlie, let me invite you to comment. Any comments so far on that review of snacks in the ego-flavored section before I actually read tonight's Klooby Snack?
Well, Coach Jeff, as always, thank you very much for writing all these Klooby Snacks. Again, wordsmith par excellence. You've got a way of playing with words that gets one thinking very deeply. Like each Klooby Snack can let you have some deep introspection, and any one of them at any time can have a different meaning depending on what is happening in your life at the time. So
they have the horoscope effect in that regard, right? If you've ever read, like, I can't believe this horoscope was written just for me, right? So that's the power of me. Or song lyrics are like that too. If you've ever read lyrics to a song, you're like, oh my God, how did this band, that they were thinking of me in my life when they wrote this? This is perfect. But that's the power of meaning making, the meaning that we attach. The words are just out there, right? But then they get filtered through, and we attach all of this stuff in the process of meaning making. Go ahead, Charlie. Continue. I'm just scrolling through some of the snacks as you comment. Continue, please.
As I says, whatever you might be going through at any time, I usually do this, and sometimes I just scroll up through my Klooby Snacks and I'll find one and read it and say, what does it actually mean to me? And how do I interpret it? How is it related to the situation? And then at the end of the day, it makes a lot of sense. At another time, the very same Klooby Snack means something else. So thank you very much for putting this together for us.
Well, thank you, Charlie. I can tell you that it would be a little bit of a dream come true. A little bit of a dream come true if I could create I already have a coach's training program, right? I already have a coach's training program where I train people how to coach, right? Hey, where'd you go? There you are. All right. So I train people how to coach, right? How do we get people engaged? How do we get people motivated? And how do we provide non-threatening accountability? So I already have that framework, but it would be interesting if I could train somebody to coach only using Klooby Snacks as their only tool in their toolbox. Right. So somebody shows up to a coaching session, imagine, and the coach gets to say, all right, summarize for me what you want help with today. And then once the person says what they want help with, the coach can only use Klooby Snacks to guide that person to an illumination, to a solution, to a resource, to a sense of empowerment, to a focus, to a new path, a new action to take, to some sort of empowerment around whatever the issue is. I went through a coach's training one time where all I could use in my coaching was behavioral assessments, right? So I would coach 5 different people every single week for 8 weeks. And each one of them, when they would come to the session, and I'd say, all right, what are the results that you want to get from today's session? And they would summarize what their issue is that they wanted to process. The only tool I could use in that coaching session was behavioral assessments. And I had to help them see the problem through behavioral assessments, through their motivators and through their behavioral instincts and their natural and adapted. And we had graphs and we had do's and don'ts and we had needs and tendencies and so forth in the behavioral assessment report. But I couldn't bring any other tool to bear in the process. And so along those lines, I think it would be really cool to see the power of Klooby Snacks to do what you were talking about. Is like, hey, if anybody's feeling down, if anybody's stuck, if anybody needs inspiration, if anybody needs to refocus, reset, strengthen their resilience, eliminate distraction, find a sense of, inspiration or resilience, whatever it is, right? It would be wonderful if Klooby Snacks were the fuel, or the path. It would be, it's like these have potential, but we're just at the stage of getting them out there and popularizing them. But wow, it would be like a dream come true if Klooby Snacks and Klooby Snacks alone could actually help solve people's problems, help people get out of their own way, help people look within, help people be honest with themselves, help people stop blaming others, help people get clear on the actions they need to take. Just Klooby Snacks. What a remarkable idea to consider. So thank you for that. Now, having said all of that, let's go ahead and get into tonight's Klooby Snack, which is, drum roll please, Surgeons do not operate on themselves. So this is the part that I'm nervous about, which is going to be trying to do justice to Abigail's words. So tell me when you can see my screen. Charlie, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
All right, so here we are. If you're following along at home, this is going to be page 66. If you're following along with your own copy at home, Klooby Snacks is available for $20.25 on Amazon.com. Right? Okay, here we go. Surgeons do not operate on themselves. And my daughter wrote, my dad, despite his multi-dimensional career field, still seeks outside sources to help him work on himself. Though he spends hours helping other people become the best versions of themselves, he still has work to do on himself. He tells me about different coaches that he has, ranging from spiritual coaching, transactional accountability coaching, and marketing coaching. Though people hire my dad to coach them, my dad doesn't coach himself. He uses his knowledge in Klooby Snacks to navigate his life, but he doesn't hold solo Zoom calls where he talks to himself about his lack of integrity or accountability. He recognizes that he needs someone else to coach him. Surgeons don't operate on themselves. Lawyers don't sue themselves. And thankfully, my dad doesn't coach himself. Super cute, very succinct, right? There it is. Charlie, I'm going to leave this one up. Is there anything in here? If Abigail were on right now, I would ask her, I would say, Abigail, now that it's like almost 7 months since she wrote this, now 7 months, of time is a big amount of time in her life, only 17 years old, right? Would she write the same thing is what I'd ask her, but she's not here. Charlie, is there anything that Abigail wrote that stands out to you that you think is worth shining a light on or reiterating or appreciating?
Coach Jeff, this Klooby Snack, sometimes you look back and says, and look at a mechanic. Is his car in good working condition? No. You look at a plumber. There's always something leaking in his house, but he's fixing other people's houses, but not this one here. So in reflecting on this Klooby Snack, that surgeons do not operate on themselves, and I like the way Abby has also narrated this Klooby Snack as to, my dad also has a coach. He can't be sitting and doing Zoom calls on his own. It might just be, I don't know what a term I can use. It might be monochrome. This comes to mind, but you the wordsmith, you can come up with about 20 words I can use.
Yeah, I laugh right now thinking like the first ever autobiographical coaching program where like it's kind of like it's like it's like you can't tell the difference where this is like help professional like self-help on steroids or like somebody like that has a drug problem that's talking to themselves like, hey, you really should, I don't know what's in your way, like, hey, like talking back and forth to each other, right? Like, I don't know, somebody's headed for institutionalization one way or the other. Oh man,
that would be personality at the next level. Yeah.
Well, I remember growing up hearing jokes by Robin Williams, right? And he's like something along the lines of like, somebody's like on drugs having a conversation with each other, like redundant. There's something about this Robin Williams joke, and I think it was like it's okay to talk to yourself, but once you talk back, that's when they lock you up. That's when they think you're crazy. Like so the autobiographical coaching program is a path to institutionalization. We don't want that. We want to look outside. So basically, we want to wave a flag for the trusted advisor, right? This isn't rocket science. Okay. We all need trusted advisors in our lives, people that, focus on things, for a living. But, like you talk about all the examples of, I don't know, man, there's got to be some examples where the chef, the master chef does cook for themselves, or, there's got to be an accountant somewhere out there that, has their books in order, right? There's got to, I don't know, like I have hope that there's examples or exceptions to this rule. Surgeons don't operate on themselves, but I can't imagine a surgeon operating on themselves. And once I learned what coaching is, I do a good job holding myself accountable, more than most, but not if I'm stuck and I need to get past myself. I need other people to talk to. I have to have outside influences. And sometimes they don't even need to say anything, Charlie. Sometimes it's just somebody outside just to hear me talk, like for me to explain what's going on. Now I have to put a linear form to my thoughts. Whereas left to my own devices, my thoughts are bouncing around all over my head 1,000,000 miles an hour in a million different directions. So just having to, just having somebody else to talk to, just to be able to articulate what is the issue, what's on my mind, what's the dilemma, what are the success principles that seem to be contradicting each other that I need to choose from. Just articulating what the issue is so helpful in getting it resolved.
It will give you more, it will give you better clarity on, as you said, your mind is bouncing all over the place with what you're having to deal with. But at the time when you speak to someone, it gives you clarity. As you are saying it, you then ultimately do find the solution to what the problem is you are dealing with.
Yeah, that's some of my favorite coaching is when I just listen. And I don't even have to solve a problem or, go into my bag of tricks, or I don't have to wrestle and go through smoke and mirror. My favorite coaching is when all I have to do is ask good questions and listen. Ask good questions and listen, and then the person arrives at the clarity. I mean, that's my favorite. So yeah, you're not going to catch me coaching myself. I might cut my own fingernails, but I'm not going to, do my plumbing. I might wash my own car. Very unlikely, in fact, right? I might, but I'm not going to represent myself in a court of law, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to coach myself. I think I'm one of the best coaches on the planet, right? So, but I'm not for myself. I'm not. Right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, Coach Jeff, there might be a lot of things you can do for yourself. But when we take into consideration all the other things that you have to do, you might just be rushing through a certain thing that you could have given someone else to do that task for you, and they're going to do it 10 times better than you, because that's all they focus on. You've got 9 other things that you are thinking about. So I've got to get this car washed quickly because I need to go and do ABC, and then you don't do as good a job as getting someone else to do it for you.
Yeah, I mean, true that. I love being Coach Jeffrey in other people's ecosystems, because there's so many other aspects of a business that need to be tended to that, like in my own business, I don't enjoy, or I'm not good at. It's not my genius. I love coaching. I love speaking. I love training. I love facilitating. I love, looking people in the eye and letting them know that I believe in them and that I feel what they're thinking. Those are the things I like doing. But, admin and operations and compliance and it's all the stuff you got to do in your own business. I love my independent contracts when I get to come in and just be a supporting coach or a speaker in other people's ecosystems, because then I'm really focused on what I'm great at. But we're going to talk about delegating in another time. It's funny how you talked about delegating to somebody else that doesn't have as much on their plate. They get to focus on the one thing, and they're going to do it so much better than you. Even if they do it not as good as you need to get it off your plate, right? When you talk about productivity and your own succession plan, it's not consistent with the theme of tonight's snack, but it's interesting that you bring up delegation.
You just mentioned something earlier on, that as a coach, from the business aspects and the elements within the business, the admin, the accounting, the marketing, the sales, etc., you don't enjoy doing it yourself. However, you enjoy much more guiding somebody on how to go about doing it. But then you have someone else, again, delegated to do that. You are the speaker, you are the motivator, you are the trainer. So you've got so much more to share to someone who's not as good at it, or maybe blindsided by some of these elements, and you help them to get through them. And you leave for your own business someone else to do it for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think, I've been the person that's so often, I just think about all these assignments I had all around the world, and literally the hundreds of people that have paid me to help them, to be their trusted advisor, and how the difference between that and how miserably I fail if and when trying to coach myself, right? So much so that, the gap is just enormous. It's just enormous to consider. So let me go ahead and get into last call for comments, questions. Here we are. It's Klooby Snack number 23 tonight, but Abigail's not with us. I'm going to end up asking her about tonight's snack when she rejoins us next week. But for tonight, Charlie, last call. Comments, questions, jokes, riddles, anything else that you want to share before we dismiss for this evening?
Again, from me, it's always good to see you. And we must get Abby today. And I hope she's having a good time with finishing high school, is it? Yeah.
High school. She graduates on Thursday, and this is tonight. It's a banquet. It's like a social gathering for all of her classmates that were in the newspaper class together. Abigail was a staff writer for 4 years on the high school newspaper. Nice. So they're having their banquet tonight.
Oh, that's nice. I hope she's having a good time out there.
Yeah, and, she must be missing Klooby Snacks because she loves Klooby Snacks, so she's got to be having a good time to not be here tonight. It's like, it's up there with Coachella Concert Festival that I think she's missed. This is her third one that she's missed now, 3rd out of 23. So she's falling under 90%. We got to get her back up to in the 90% range of attendance.
Excellent.
All right, Charlie. Well, thank you so much for being here and making the conversation lively. This is another installment of Sunday Night Klooby Snacks. It was Klooby Snack number 23. So we have 3 left in the ego flavored section before we move on to the discipline flavored. The snacks are actually going to grow with intensity a little bit in terms of questioning our discipline and our, it's funny when I go to do public speaking and I see how many of you believe you have integrity, everybody raises their hand. And so I'm like, hey, don't shoot the messenger, but I'm the one that loves you enough to let you know you don't have as much. You might have some, but we all need more, and you don't have as much as you think you do. And let me hold up the mirror and don't shoot me. And so when we come to discipline and dedication to reality and where do we fall on the continuum of mental disease and our ability to delay gratification, and there's some heavy concepts coming, but we've got 3 more snacks in ego flavored before we get there. So thank you, Charlie, for chiming in. On behalf of Abby Klubeck, I'm Jeff Klubeck, and we'll see everybody next week for another installment. Klooby Snack number 24 next week. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Night. Bye, Coach Jeff.